The shriek of tortured metal was the only song left. It played over the percussive beat of failing life support and the frantic, strobing red of emergency lighting. Kalen braced himself against a shudder that ran through the deck plates, the vibration climbing his spine like a cold spider. Zero-G flickered, and for a heart-stopping second, he floated, dust and frozen droplets of coolant hovering around him like malevolent spirits. Then the gravity generators sputtered back to life, slamming him down onto the grating. "Kale, status!" Ria's voice crackled in his ear, tight with static and fear. "The reactor containment field is down to 12%. "Tell me something I don't know, Ria," he grunted, forcing a secondary locking clamp with a pry bar. The alloy groaned in protest before snapping open.
"The projectile cradle is jammed. Manual override."
He could see it through the reinforced port. The railgun, not a weapon but a lifeline. The gun was the entire central axis of Station Erebos, a 10-kilometer-long magnetic accelerator designed to fling refined asteroids back towards the inner system. Now it was their Hail Mary, aimed at a ghost in the dark. Yes. "The Odyssey's trajectory is absolute," Ria said, her voice a desperate anchor in the chaos. "You miss this window, they're gone forever. KL, humanity is gone forever. Just keep the power flowing. I'll handle the rest," he snarled, more to himself than to her. He slid the projectile from its shielded housing. It was no bigger than his thumb, a polished tungsten dart, impossibly dense. Its core was a paradox, the most profound hope humanity had, encased in a shell built for brute force. With a final heave, he seated the dart into the cradle. It settled with a soft, magnetic click that was almost lost in the cacophony of the station's death throes. Inside that tiny vessel, two components waited. A crystalline data shard, pulsing with a faint internal light, held the code fragment. It was incomplete, a key without a lock. Beside it, suspended in a cryogel, was a single drop of crimson, shimmering as the light caught it. The blood sample. Is it really her blood?" Kale asked, his voice suddenly quiet, reverent. The comms hissed for a moment. "Subject 0, Ria confirmed, her tone softening. "The first and the last. That sample is all that's left of her. Yes. Her immunity is their only chance. Their only chance." The words echoed in the cavernous loading bay. He remembered the feeds from Earth, from Mars, from every habitat that had been silenced. The red decay. It hadn't been a war. Shot. An ending. A biological whisper that unraveled the human genome, turning flesh to crimson dust. All except for one person whose unique blood chemistry had held the tide. Subject 0. And now, decades after her death, her blood was about to travel faster than any human ever had, a cure delivered by magnetic fury. "The code is the key," he recited, a mantra against the rising terror. "The blood is the lock." "Aligning the gun now, KL. The targeted computer is fried. I'm slaving my terminal to the gyros, but it's sloppy." KL clambered from the loading bay into the primary firing conduit. The air here was thin, smelling of ozone and scorched wiring. He strapped himself into the manual sighting chair, a place no human had sat in over a century. A dizzying starfield swam into view through a thick, armored viewport, a tear in the fabric of the station. "I see it," he breathed. "Yes." It wasn't the Odyssey itself, colony ship was still light years away, but the calculated intercept point. An empty patch of space, colder and blacker than the rest. "Power is fluctuating," Ria screamed. "The capacitors are failing to hold a charge. Kale, you have to fire now!" A violent lurch threw him against his restraints. A web of cracks spread across the viewport. The main lights died, plunging him into a nightmare world illuminated only by red strobes and the distant, indifferent stars. "I'm blind, Ria. Use the nav beacon. I'm pulsing its location to your HOD. It's all I've got." A faint green reticle flickered to life in his visor, ghosting over the black. His hands flew over the controls, knuckles white. The targeting was crude, ancient. He was steering a Titan with a broken rudder. He felt the hum of the capacitors through the chair, a deep, resonant thrum that vibrated in his teeth. A power gauge on the console flickered wildly, threatening to redline. "It's not enough power for a full sequence launch." Ria's voice was a ragged whisper. "It'll fall short, then we overload it," Kale said, his decision absolute. "Yes, He slammed his palm onto a covered panel, shattering the plastic. Bypass the safeties, all of them. Divert everything from life support. KL, you won't survive the feedback, the Odyssey will, he interrupted. Do it, Rhea. Silence. Then a soft click over the comms. The hum of the capacitors rose to a deafening, bone-jarring scream. The lights on his console flared to twice their normal brightness before dying one by one. The green reticle on his HUD pulsed, locking onto the empty space. For them, KL, Rhea whispered, a final benediction. For them, Alm, he replied, and jammed the firing stud down. There was no sound, only pressure. A wave of pure force slammed him back, the world dissolving into a white so absolute it felt like the genesis of the universe. He felt a tearing sensation, a feeling of being unmade. His last conscious thought was of the tungsten dart, a silver needle stitching a wound across the stars, a mission fulfilled. 73 years, 4 months, and 9 days later, the automated systems of the colony ship Odyssey detected the projectile. It was a needle in the cosmic haystack, a 1 in a trillion shot. Yes, it was brought aboard with sterile, precise arms and delivered to the central biolab. Chief geneticist Eris Thorne watched on the main screen, her face a mask of weary hope. She had been born on this ship, as had her parents. The stories of Earth were just that, stories. Frightening tales of the Red Decay and the last desperate act to save their ancestors on this very ship. "We have it," a technician announced. "The payload is intact, extracting the data shard and the biological sample." Eris leaned forward. The code fragment was sequenced first. It was elegant, complex, but filled with incomprehensible gaps. As predicted by the fragmented messages they'd received a century ago, it was useless on its own. "Now," Eris said, her voice trembling slightly, "introduce the sample. Begin genomic synthesis." A drop of the ancient, perfectly preserved blood was introduced into the sequencer. Its genetic material was perfect, unflawed, a pure strain of Homo sapiens, untouched by the generations of cosmic radiation and recycled life that the Odyssey's crew had endured. On the screen, the code fragment began to move. Yes? The gaps in its structure filled, pulling proteins and enzymes directly from the blood sample's DNA. It was not a key unlocking a formula. It was a self-compiling program using the blood as its source code and its compiler. "Synthesis complete," the technician said, his brow furrowed. "Running diagnostics." This isn't a cure, Chief Thorne. It's not an antiviral or a gene therapy." "What is it then?" Eris asked, a cold dread seeping into her bones. "It's a weapon," the technician whispered, staring at his screen in horror. "A retrovirus. Highly targeted. It's designed to identify and deconstruct the exact genome from the blood sample." Eris stared, uncomprehending. "But that's our genome, that's baseline human. Why would they send a weapon to kill us?" It was then that another alarm chimed, a low-priority alert from the ship's long-range archaeolinguistics department. An old, heavily encrypted data packet sent from Erebos Station just before its destruction had finally been fully decrypted. It wasn't a message of hope. It was a manifesto. It spoke of the Red Decay not as a plague, but as an ascension, a symbiosis. Yes. It claimed humanity had not died, but evolved into something greater, something transcendent. It branded the Odyssey and its inhabitants as relics, abominations, the last remnants of a flawed, impure past. Eris Thorne looked from the manifesto to the screen displaying the newly compiled retrovirus, its purpose now terrifyingly clear. "They didn't send us a cure," she whispered to the empty bridge, as the containment alarms in the biolab began to scream. "They sent us an exterminator. The Salve. Yes."